Well, it's Binjang 91.5, and I have in Studio 2 Matthew Dickerson this afternoon with Tech Talk. Good afternoon, Matthew.
Good afternoon, Tony. Great to be chatting again. And I thought we'd do something a little bit different this time. We've talked so much throughout the year about specific products and how they're bringing forward different items and products. But this time I thought I'd look more at some categories that I think that we'll see really take off with maybe one or two products available in the category, but then the category I think is just about to explode.
Well, the first one I'd like to start off with there is something right up your alley and certainly up mine too, and that's a 3D printed bike.
Yeah, so this is the thing. There's one example of this. There's one company out there making 3D printed bikes at the moment. But 5 years' time, Tony, I think we'll see this happening a lot more because 3D printing is becoming so easy for manufacturers. But the real advantage here, in this particular company, Superstrata, that makes this bike, you send them your dimensions. You send them your height, your leg length, how flexible you are, a whole range of dimensions they ask for. They ask for your riding style and a few preferences. And then they 3D print a carbon fibre bike specifically for you. And what's interesting about that is that it's actually not as expensive as I would have thought. I've got friends of mine that have spent $10,000, $15,000 on a bike. These ones are typically only around about $5,000 or $6,000. So still sounds expensive, but compared to some bikes on the market, not that expensive. But Superstrata say they've got over 500,000 possible combinations of the way they make the bike depending on your exact requirements. They've got two basic models, which is basically a normal bike that you power and an e-bike that's obviously helped with a battery that's part of that bike. Great idea. And again, I can see many, many more companies creating bikes in this category where they'll 3D print a bike for you on the spot.
Yeah, it's where my interest here is, Matthew, is in the future. And I think in about 5 to 10 years' time, we'll see a lot of manufacturing coming back into the country because of 3D printing, saving the costs of transport of products.
Yep.
And hopefully we might even see 3D printers that can print 3D printers so we don't have to import them from China.
That's the replication of the robots. Oh no, it's going to be robots building robots, Tony.
Yes. Well, it's entirely possible.
Yes.
Now, what about biometric locks?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of advances in biometric devices. And I know in my shop I've got eye scanners, I've got fingerprint scanners. So biometric things are changing a lot. And just having the good old-fashioned lock, rather than having a combination code, which some people can basically get through fairly easy, having keys that some people can pick, then they're now making biometric padlocks. So essentially you get your padlock, you scan your fingerprint into it, the same as you would do with your phone, for example, to get in. You can have up to 10 different fingerprints on it, and away you go. If you, for some reason, can't get in with your fingerprint, rather than having any key or any other sort of lock to unlock it, you've got a directional code. So a bit like some phones you can unlock with a pattern on there, you've got a directional code. If you get it wrong too many times, it locks you out. So it can't have someone just sit there and endlessly go through different directional codes to try and get in, because obviously it just times them out and the lock's useless. So biometric locks, biometrics are going to be certainly used more and more as we go forward, I think, as the technology develops better and as it becomes more accurate with whether it be eye scanners, face scanners, fingerprint scanners, a whole range of biometrics.
Yeah. Now, here's a good one. Self-cleaning food storage. I noticed you've got the water bottle in there. And how many times do people just fill up their water bottles without cleaning them?
Well,
Question, isn't it?
I'm guilty as charged, Tony. I get in trouble from my wife because I just use my water bottle, get on my bike, go for a ride. Next day, empty it out, fill up my water bottle, and she tells me it's disgusting and terrible and I'm going to catch some terrible disease, and she may well be right. But this is where this category, I think, is changing. We've seen a lot of things where we're using ultraviolet light to clean things. It might be things that we touch or things that we use for food containers. But this particular water bottle is a normal 550ml water bottle, but in the lid, there's an ultraviolet light. And once you empty the water bottle out, rather than putting it away in the cupboard or not giving it a proper clean, you turn on the ultraviolet light. In 3 minutes, it promises to zap out 99.99% of all the bacteria, viruses and mould that are sitting in there. So great idea, and especially for people that are a bit time poor, rather than take the time to wash the water bottle, you just push the button on the lid and then it's ready for you to use the next day.
I like the way you term it, time poor. That's good thinking there.
Is that another term for being lazy, Tony? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you might say, yes. Now, how about steam toasters? I remember steam toasters from boarding school. I wasn't terribly impressed, I have to say.
Well, let me say this, Tony. They have come a long way. I don't know the exact steam toaster you had at boarding school, but they've come a long way. And I thought we'd actually probably develop toasters as far as they were going to go. But there's a Tokyo-based tech company that's created a steam toaster, and using their advertising material, the steam technology and precise temperature control will bring out the very best in every kind of bread. So I didn't know we were doing some disservice to bread, but apparently we have been. So essentially you put water in the toaster, it uses 5 millilitres of water per piece of bread. It does a 3-stage process where it wafts over steam over the bread to bring out the interior fluffiness. Then the second stage turns the bread golden, and the final stage turns it brown. It uses the steam at 220 degrees Celsius to do that. So sounds interesting. I'm keen to try one out. It's also used for other foods that might be somewhat flour or bread based. So pizza, for example, heat up your pizza without it drying out and still have that fluffiness that was associated with the pizza when you first got it.
Well, yeah. Now, what do you think about the robotic bartender? It sounds a little bit socially distanced to me.
It sounds socially distanced, but it also sounds perfect for people like me that drink a cocktail once in a blue moon and have no idea what goes into a cocktail. When I walk up to a bar and order a certain cocktail, I would have no idea how to make it. I look at the things in it. That sounds okay to me. Let's go for it. But at home, making my own cocktails, and obviously this is where this has been driven with a few people sitting around home during the pandemic this year and maybe having a few quiet drinks to themselves, making a cocktail at home, I wouldn't have even bothered trying. I couldn't have been bothered to go through the process. But you've got now robotic bartenders, and essentially you put water in, it will chill the water for you. You've got a carbonator, so you can have bubbles in that water if you need to. And then just like a coffee machine that you can have a pod in, you put a drink cartridge in, and it's effectively a dehydrated drink. You put that in, press the button, wait 30 seconds, presto, you've got the perfect cocktail, created the same every single time, the right alcohol content, the right mix of all the ingredients, and it should taste perfect every time. So the robotic bartender, I can see this being a big hit, Tony.
Can you? Just like the bread makers, another great museum piece in the kitchen? Yeah, great.
I've got much more confidence in it than that. I think this will be something that people will use going into the future. I can see lots more people using this.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you have a positive attitude towards it. Now, how about a water-cooled mattress?
It's well known, Tony,
How would that go?
that partners often have different temperature levels, especially those partners are male and female. Females and males seem to like different temperatures in the bed. So there's always this battle about, give me a bit of doona. No, I don't want the doona on. Here, pull it down halfway. And so rather than having all those discussions and arguments, there's a water-cooled, and it's water-cooled and heated, but it's called a water-cooled mattress pad. So effectively it's a normal mattress, but it's got water running through it. Most importantly, you can heat the left side of the bed and the right side of the bed to different temperatures. You use a smartphone app, and you don't have a dedicated controller, of course, on it. It's got to be Bluetooth control with a smartphone app. You set the temperature of both sides, and away you go. Each person can sleep at the temperature they need to sleep at and have a beautiful night's sleep. So again, I can see this sort of thing being something we use more and more, starting getting to the stage where maybe we get couches and lounges in our lounge room being cooled or heated to the right temperature as well. I just think this sort of micromanagement of the climate is something that's better for our heating bills and makes it more comfortable for us.
Yeah, I've got an idea. How about a centre line printed into the bed sheets? That would go well, wouldn't it?
It might cause a few arguments and save a few arguments. I'm not sure which way that one would go.
Get over to your side. It's cooler over there.
There's a line down the middle.
Yes. Anyway, it's been great having this talk about Tech Talk on Binjang 91.5. This is our last edition for this year, actually, and for Christmas.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Tony, and all your listeners, obviously, and we'll be back next year. There's more technology that's going to keep developing. I can make that prediction pretty safely, and we'll talk about all the exciting technology developments throughout 2021.
Yeah, and look, thank you for your patronage of Binjang, Matthew. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, Tony.
Fantastic. You've been listening to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5.